right, we are back. This is Creativity is the Cure. I'm your host, Malcolm Moore, and today I've got my good friend from a long, long time ago, Mr. j.Reto. How are you doing today, Jay?
Oh my gosh, I'm great. It's so good to hear your voice. It's been a long time.
I know. I thought about it this morning. I'm like, good God, what was it, like 30 years ago that we saw each other in person?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Back in Rochester, New York.
Yes. All right, so for people who don't know who you are, especially my students listening, I'm going to give a little overview. Born in eastern Pennsylvania, artist j.Reto lived in Rochester, New York, before moving to California, where he spent 30 years exploring and delineating his artistic style. In 2017, he and his family moved to Anchorage, Alaska, where he abandoned his old art practice for a new understanding, new aesthetic, and new perspective on neo-art markets. He was a founding member of Anchorage's Circle 5 art group and is preparing to launch C3, Creatives, Collectors, and Community, an enclave of art activists wanting to advance the art scene in Alaska. j.Reto shows regularly throughout Anchorage and currently has a 10 by 15 installation at Cyrano's Theater Gallery. He is curating a reimagined mythos show at ConocoPhillips Gallery this June titled Last Tier, and will have a yet-to-be-titled solo show in October at Alaska Pacific University. Does all that sound right?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
We are both from Rochester, New York, especially the music scene. And I was thinking this morning, when did I first meet you? I think my first memory of you is I was walking down Monroe Avenue and you had a flyer up where you were posing as if the cover of David Bowie's Heroes album. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. Yep.
And I was like, who is this? He must be super cool. And do I remember correctly, did you work at Godiva's?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people she had before me. It might have only been one, or I might have been the first, I'm not sure. But yeah, I worked at Godiva's, which was sort of this weird mix of a sort of a punk clothing boutique and a military, a PX. So we'd sell gas masks and, bondage pants. Yeah.
I mean, back then, I don't know how it is now because I haven't been to Rochester in a while, but there's this street, Monroe Avenue, in my 20s. Man, that was the coolest place. I was thinking today, it was like a baby Melrose Avenue. I mean, we had like Godiva's, we had Image. There's so many cool bands. I'm trying to think, did I meet you maybe through Scott Coblio? How did we originally meet? Or maybe Amy Brown?
I kind of think we met through Amy Brown. Yeah, the bassist for the band Dog's Life and the Modern Airliners or Airline.
Yeah, that's what they are in New York City now. And I was thinking the music scene in Rochester. I mean, if people don't know, they've really got the Eastman School of Music there, and there's a lot of amazing people that have come out of there like Chuck Mangione, Steve Gadd, Tony Levin. But for us younger people, there were bands like Dog's Life, The Quitters. I was in a band called Spit Pope, and I remember, my friend Ron Mesh, who has gone on to now be the tour manager for Guns N' Roses. He used to do sound for all of us. It was such a thriving scene. I mean, Scott Coblio performed as Cuckoo Boy. What other bands? Zizazos, right?
Yeah, Zizazos. Yeah. Wait, were you in Zizazos?
I was not. No, it was Rob Filardo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there were so many bands. I can't remember all the names. Were you? I love Spit Pope, by the way. That was your band.
Yeah.
And are you still in touch with Melanie?
I am not. I have. Well, let's go through the band. Melanie Post. I have not seen. I think in longer than you. I don't know if she still lives in Rochester, but she was our singer. Jeff Leon, he lives out here with me, and actually it's his birthday today. He and I see each other all the time, but sadly Gavin, our bass player, passed away several years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that was a really fun band. I remember one time we were playing at Milestones, and we had a toilet on stage with dry ice coming out, and it was always fun because Jeff Leon is a chemist, so he would always use chemicals to enhance our shows.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah. I left Rochester in 1991.
Okay.
Just such a weird number to say, right? Aloud.
Yeah.
So I actually missed some of the music that came after that. I mean, actually, I missed a lot of Cuckoo Boy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there for the beginning, but I missed a lot of sort of their heyday. But yeah, no, the music scene in Rochester was awesome. All of it was awesome, actually. A lot of the artists, Jen Cermak and other artists at the time. And of course, I was part of the Media Whores,
Yes.
which was Penelope Point, Scott Coblio, and myself. And we would do things like hang posters. I'm sure that poster you're referring to where I was trying to look like Bowie probably wasn't serving any purpose. I mean, I think we just made posters to make them and put them up. And I'm not sure I've really changed a whole lot, to be honest with you, because I'm still, going around Anchorage here and just doing my own thing and pretending I'm a star, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember
It's
you and I
funny.
would collaborate sometimes because I was thinking back then, I put a lot of albums out, but I couldn't afford to record them properly. So I did it on
Uh-huh.
cassette. And then, of course, all of us would go to Kinko's to do all our
Uh-huh. Right.
printing with
Kinko's. Oh my God. Yeah.
Reverend Sam was our hookup there.
Yes, that's right.
Man, such a great time and creative for me.
I'm going to mention this. So yes, that's exactly what was happening at the time. Cassettes. I mean, it's like saying 1991. I mean, cassettes. I mean, it's such an archaic term. But I once made a series of cassettes that I sold at Godiva's, and it was called PITA, P-I-T-A, which stood for Pain in the Ass, which was from a Blondie song, Heart of Glass. And it was nothing but versions of Heart of Glass. I think both sides.
Oh, man.
And I mean, it was ridiculous, but it was so awesome. And it had a color fold out because color Xeroxing had just begun.
Yes.
And yeah, how absurd is that to make cassettes and then, sell them? Crazy.
Yeah, and you
crazy.
guys sold my cassettes too. I think you're the only people that did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so Cheryl, who ran
Yep.
Godiva's, she had a band that I briefly played drums for, and I think Arpad played guitar, right? What was that band
Lily's
called?
Buffet.
Lily's
Lily's
Buffet.
Buffet.
Yeah, very
Yes.
brief for me, but I had a lot of fun playing.
Yeah.
With them.
And they were great. They were great. There was such an element of art to it all.
Yeah.
I mean, there were certainly those who were very serious and sort of went the standard route, but so much of it was just wanting to be creative and just be part of the scene. That's just a part of it is, just wanting to be part of something bigger.
Yeah, and you're right, it was a real artistic community. And not only that, I was telling my wife Christine when we would go to clubs like Idols, they would often have like a band playing downstairs, and then you could go upstairs to dance. And what I loved, and I just remembered yesterday, is they would project movies, all kinds of
Nice.
weird videos like Skinny Puppy and any of those bands from back then, a lot of the industrial ones. It was such a great time in music too. And as being a high school music teacher now, a lot of my students are getting into 90s stuff. And of course, I know all about that because that's our youth, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm sure I'm older than you. So 80s is really my youth, but yeah.
Yeah, you can't be that much older than me. I'm 56. What are you?
Well, I'll be 59 this year.
Oh, that's not that much. I remember the 80s
Well,
too.
not much. No, not that much of a difference. No, but I guess I sort of left the music when I left California. I didn't really stay in any kind of a music scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just went more art. So
Yeah, and also I think you and Scott and Amy, I remember you guys making really funny videos.
the videos, yes.
Like Fury the
Well, that's what I
Windbreaking
was going to
Horse.
say the last time. That's what I was going to say was the last time I saw that I remember seeing you, or I believe if I remember it correctly, we were making a movie. Oh, I could almost remember the title of it too. But I think we were in our apartment that I
Yes.
shared with Amy, which was a third floor apartment. I have a great Amy story to tell.
Yeah.
A third story walk up apartment. And we're all sitting around a small living room with like tilted ceilings because it was the attic basically.
Right.
And we went around and we were filming something, and Melanie was there, so I'm assuming you were there,
Yeah.
and a couple other people. And it was ridiculous video. I think we just all said like a word or something like that. I'm going to tell you a story about that. Amy, if you are listening, I apologize. But so I lived there with Amy and Lee Chabowski.
Yeah.
And Amy had, let me make sure I get it right. Amy had a guinea pig as a pet.
I remember.
And I think its name was Mr. Rubber Pants. I think that was what its name was. Anyways, one day we couldn't find Mr. Rubber Pants. And we just didn't know what happened. We're the third story, right? So like
Yeah.
I couldn't have walked out. And I don't know, I think we just sort of accepted that, eventually it would come out from underneath something, whatever. Well, months went by and it never came out. And it was Rochester, so it's cold, and winter was coming, so the furnace
Yeah.
went
Oh
on,
no.
and there was the most disgusting smell that filled the
Oh.
entire 3-story building. Here, Mr. Rubber Pants had fallen down the vent,
Oh no.
and its body had been cremated
Oh.
come winter. And that smell was unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, what a sad story. And I actually,
Yeah.
so I remember being there when you guys had made a video. I wasn't in it, but you were showing it, and I swear to God, it was you were in it, Amy was in it, and it was like a self-help thing where you came out and you were
Oh,
like the teacher, right?
kind of. Tell me a little more. I mean, I have vague recollection of this.
Oh, I
Did
very
I have, did I ultimately have like a mask on, like a iguana mask?
I don't think
No.
in this
Okay.
one. I mean, you guys made so many videos. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to ask Scott if he has any of these, and we're gonna have to dig them out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But no, yeah, no, I kind of remember. Yeah, and Amy's like was smiling. I kind of remember it, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember
there
you
were so
guys
many of
sitting in a
them.
semicircle. It was kind of like a self-help,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
so
And
many.
we sold those videos. We sold them or auctioned them at the Pyramid Art Gallery.
Really? Oh, I
And I
remember the
remember,
Pyramid Art Gallery. Wow.
yeah. And we had it was a VHS cassette or tape or whatever, of course. And yeah, and before we took it to the auction, I took the case for the VHS cassette and I put glue all over it, and then I ran it through like lint and gravel and probably Mr. Rubber Pants litter, and put it. Then they put it up for auction. I think Rome Sully bought it. He was such a good sport and supporter of the arts there.
Yeah,
But yeah, we were what we needed to be at the time, I guess.
it was a really, really good scene, and
Yeah,
I got to
yeah,
dig out my old cassettes because I was thinking about my cassettes the other day, and I would put
yeah,
all of you guys on it. So it's kind of like a snapshot of back then. I would do all those
yeah.
things like in between the songs, and I had everybody on
Uh-huh.
it, including you and Scott. And wow,
That's
really.
awesome. Yeah,
All right, so Scott's got to get the
yeah,
videos. I got to get the cassettes.
yep, yep.
And Scott lives out not too far from me too. He's been on two
I
times.
know. So I missed you in LA.
Yeah. So wait, let's go
15.
back. You
Yeah,
left Rochester in '91 and you came to California.
yeah. I moved to San Diego,
Okay.
and I mean, I guess I'll just tell the story.
Yeah.
So I moved there. So the media whores were going to move to California, and we literally hung a map of Southern California in our bathroom, and we closed our eyes and pointed collectively to San Diego. And so Penelope Point, Scott Calvo, and I were all going to move out there, but we moved out at different times because we had different obligations.
Yeah.
So when I moved out there, I got a phone call from Penelope, who was on an airplane, saying, and this is before cell phones, so she was somehow literally on on a telephone on the airplane, and she said, "I'm moving to San Francisco." So she left me there in San Diego by myself, and Scott was supposed to come out, but he was having such success with Cuckoo Boy
Yeah.
that he came out like for a month and then moved back because there was, he was having such great things happen
Yeah.
for him in
Big
New York.
shows.
Yeah, but I was sort of abandoned there by myself. But it was the best time of my life. I loved it. But ultimately, I moved up to LA, and I lived in LA for like 25 plus years.
What part of LA did you live in?
I only really lived in two parts. I lived in Hollywood, like,
Yeah.
a few blocks from, Grauman's Chinese Theater and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then I moved to it's sort of a historical area called Carthay Circle, which
Yeah.
is down like by Wilshire and Crescent Heights.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where I lived the rest of my time there.
Nice. And how did you end up in Alaska? What's the story
Alaska,
behind
yeah.
that? Tell me.
Well, then I moved to Santa Cruz, California. So I
Okay.
worked my way up the coast of California, and my husband and I adopted a child in Santa Cruz named Waylon, and it's kind of like a lot of adoptions. There's some highs and lows to it, but
Yes.
it all worked out really well, and we moved to Alaska. I mean, it's not exactly in that order, but ultimately we moved to Alaska, and Waylon's here with us, and he's doing great. And
Wow. How old is
um,
Waylon now?
he is going to be 13. He'll be a teenager this June.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know
Yeah.
how complex the adoption scene is because I used
Hmm.
to work at Hillside Children's Center in
Oh,
Rochester.
right. That's right. That's
And
right.
then when I moved out here, I became friends with Mark Daly, who's an author, and
Uh-huh.
he's really invested into the foster care scene
Yeah.
because he and his husband adopted 3 children. And
Uh-huh.
you'll have to check out that podcast episode
Yeah.
because it's really fascinating. He's written a book on how complex it is. And what's even more amazing, I now live in Palmdale, which is out in the desert about an hour from
Hmm.
LA. And
Yeah.
Christian Bale is building a foster community to help kids like this. And he
I think
spent
I've read
many
about that.
years raising millions of dollars, and it's about 10
Yeah.
minutes from our house. So I'm glad you
That's
brought that up because
awesome.
that's really important to me because I've been in the trenches with kids who need families, and I think that what you and your husband did is incredible.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, it's kind of full circle. It's so strange because there's a wonderful gallery here called the Bivy Gallery, and one of the owners, his name is Shane, and he just received a grant, a statewide grant he's a writer, and he's going to write something about fostering to adopt.
Yeah.
And I bet any money he's currently reading your friend's book because he's
Yeah.
reading a lot of up on a lot of that stuff. So
Yeah. Wow. Maybe we should get all 3 of
yeah,
us on an
yeah,
episode in the future.
I'm literally gonna ask him if he's reading that particular book because that's the stage he's at now is reading, and then he's gonna write it.
Amazing. I would like to go
Mhm.
way, way back in time to when
Oh my God.
j.Reto was a little boy.
Hmm.
Would you be willing to travel back in time with me?
Yeah, somewhat. A quick tour. A quick tour.
A brief jaunt.
I
Okay.
Yeah. I will tell you that so my name is not Jay. So I come from an Italian family, and we had 13 Josephs in my family. My
Good
real name is
God.
Joseph.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's either Joseph, Maria, Teresa, or Anthony. So I started signing my artwork j.Reto when I was in high school in Bangor, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and I did a mural on a wall where I signed my name, and that's where I started with J.
Wow. And here we
Yeah,
are today.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were younger, I would like to know what is your first creative memory?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I'm going to answer it 2 ways. I'm going to answer where my head went initially, and then I'm going to try and answer the very specific question you asked. I am a daydreamer,
Okay.
and when people look at artwork, they often say, "How long did it take you to do that?" And I always say, the real question you should ask me is, "How long did I stare at this thing before I even started it?"
Yeah.
Because I like to daydream, and my son does it a lot too. Uh, but my first creative recollection, which is how I first heard your question, is honestly just sitting in the woods and staring out, or
Yeah.
laying on the ground and staring up. And the data that goes to your brain when you do that, and it's been so long since I've actually done that, but that's my first creative thing, is with nature, and just the endless wonderment of it all.
The
And
observation.
then yeah, observation, very good. Yeah, and that fuels my artwork even till today. But then the first thing that I really created, gosh, this isn't going to be my answer. So we're talking like the late 70s.
Yeah.
I used, and I got in trouble for this, but I used all of my mom's makeup to paint a face. So I drew a face, but then I thought, well, I got to put like eyeshadow on it. So I took my mom's eyeshadow and I painted the eyeshadow on. And then the lipstick, I did the lipstick. And so that's kind of the first thing. And I think kind of getting in trouble for it was part of the allure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I did it on my sister's doll also, and it didn't come off, and she was really mad at me. But I guess so I'm going to interpret that to mean like the use of materials, because nobody bought me paints or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I think being resourceful and learning about materials was my first creative thing, is seeing how materials worked and how they translated into art.
It sounds like you were naturally Dada-esque, you know?
Yeah, for sure, for
And
sure.
it sounds like you weren't even creating art on purpose. You were just naturally being creative and experimenting. Would that
Yeah.
be true?
Yeah, I think that's true. It wasn't, and even today, it's never about the finished product. It's about getting to that point. So I think seeing things, and this is true for sure of me, like seeing things differently and seeing the possibility in things, especially things that are not intended for that purpose, really, really excites me. And that's, yeah, I'm going to make this weird comparison, but sort of like adopting. I mean, we didn't rescue my son.
Right.
I mean, we did in a way, but I don't like to really think of it that way. We didn't set out to do that. We fell in love with him, etc.
Yeah.
But I do like saving things, and I like rescuing the thing that's on the sidelines, and I like the odd shaped potato chip. You know what I mean? I like all the weird stuff that seems to be
Yeah.
overlooked,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I like the idea of rescuing it and letting it be seen. Yeah, I like to have things become seen. Yeah.
So my wife Kristen and I, we bought this beautiful house out in the desert,
Mhm.
and making it work and putting it together, it almost seems like an artistic piece that we are
Hmm.
collaborating on. And when I stand back and look at it, the colors and the placement of everything, it doesn't even have to be something we sat down to say we're going to create art. But when I look back at it, I think when
Yeah.
you and your spouse, when we're in relationships together, we are creating our life, and you can look at
Yeah.
it as art and as beautiful.
Well, yeah. So I have a couple of things that I do out here, and I'm sort of wanting to move the art scene forward in some ways, and not just here, but all around. And I really think that artists. I always say to my fellow artists here that everything we do should be art. It's not to say you have to be eccentric in everything you do, but we
But
should have an
we can
opinion.
also.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to glue washers to my head and all that kind of stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
But no, like literally we should have an opinion on everything. We should be, you know, using it across the board in everything we do. And whether it's cutting up vegetables or painting a wall or making art or just viewing the world or the things we say, if not us, who? If we don't have opinions and do things in an artistic manner, those who are going to do that in our place are people who don't have any creativity or any point of view, or
Yeah.
they're just going to do what's the easiest thing or the least expensive, or whatever. So yeah, I'm not at all surprised. I don't know your wife, but I mean, I'm sure the two of you are very creative individuals,
Yeah.
and so I'm not surprised that when you do the corner of a room, you'll sit back and you both see art in it, and that's the way it should be. Because a lot of people don't. It's hard for me to imagine that, but a lot of people really don't see art the way perhaps we do.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
fascinating. And one thing that drew me to this area is two of my favorite musicians grew up here, Frank Zappa and
Mm.
Captain Beefheart.
Oh
And
my gosh, yeah,
yeah,
love
like
Beefheart.
10 minutes from us, and just the vibe out here, I can feel it. And it just makes me want to express myself, especially as I get
Hmm.
older. And I just don't give a fuck anymore what anybody thinks. I think it was David Bowie that said, I'm going to paraphrase, but when you get older, you realize who you were really meant to be.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I think embracing that is just an amazing part of life.
Well, I always say that one's 40s are when the warranties all wear out on your body parts, right? So you wake up, it's the
Yeah.
day after the warranty wore out and your knees don't work anymore.
Yeah.
And then your 50s, you start to become invisible.
Yeah.
You don't see yourself on TV. People don't really, you know, see you and treat you, care what you have to say or add. And that's really frustrating in your 50s for sure. But as you get to the end of your 50s, you find it such a relief to be invisible,
Yeah.
just like in your imaginary head. Like you can walk through the world and nobody's really looking at you.
Yeah.
Maybe they never were, of course. That might be youth, but you can do whatever you want. You don't care. Like you said, you don't give a fuck. You don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
You just do. You just do what you're going to do, and it's great because everybody thinks you're senile and crazy, anyways. And so why not? Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know
There's
what my
a,
60s are going to be like, but that's definitely my 40s and 50s for sure.
yeah. I mean, my dream is, if I had enough money, I would just love to sit in my studio and create, because you're creating art
Yeah.
for the sake of art. And I try to tell
Hmm.
my younger students who look around the world
Hmm.
now, and it's not exactly going well, and even the
Yeah.
entertainment business, how everything's changing from, CGI to AI and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
starting to realize the kids don't really care about making it or having delusions of grandeur. They're really
Mm,
just having a blast creating, and that's what it should be
yeah.
about, right?
That's great to know. I don't know that because I don't, really, I'm not really around a lot of young people, but that's great. I definitely think we're coming into an era of like sort of guerrilla art tactics and
Yes.
like where we're not looking to, I don't know what, but even just have like traditional sort of concepts of art and how art is shown and all that kind of stuff. And so that excites me to think that because I think it's going to happen regardless, because institutions are going away and
Yeah.
art fairs and all that stuff. And I think we have to just have this sort of guerrilla tactic mentality and do art that you want to do the way you want to do it, where you want to do it. Because that's there's the good news and bad. The good news is art is going to survive this period of time.
Yes.
The bad news is nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save you. You're not going to get a grant.
Yeah.
This is not across the board, but in general, you're not going to get a grant. You're not going to get a white walled gallery space. You're not going to get, whatever. You've got to do it yourself. And it's good to know that the younger people don't have that sort of sense of failure by not having that conventional route, that they seem to be even excited at the possibility they're just doing what they want, how they want, when they want. That's great.
Yeah. That's the way it should be. Were your parents creative when you were growing up, or did you grow up in a creative environment? And do you think their creative identity was passed on to you at all genetically? Do you ever find yourself doing something and go, oh, I got that from my mom or I got that from my dad?
Yeah, definitely. My father was an outdoorsman, and my great grandfather, his father, by trade, was a trapper and a boxer. That's what he did for a living.
Wow.
So again, that whole idea of viewing nature and just sort of all the possibilities and the geometry within nature and all the weirdness and anything you can imagine or draw has already happened in nature, kind of thing. I get from my father, and then my mother is very creative. And growing up, we always had sort of the best Halloween costumes and things of that nature. And so I think a lot of my work actually harkens back to my mother's influence. For years and years and years, I did, like 15 years, I did nothing but pure abstraction. I call them scrim paintings, but they were collage on canvas, and then I put like a sheer scrim over it and tack it on like you would canvas
Yeah.
onto a frame. And then I'd paint on the surface of that. And they looked colorful, muted colors, but there was really no color on the surface. It was all behind the scrim. And that's my mother, because my mother always had sheer curtains up at her house, at our house. So yeah, I think I almost always, go back and tap my mother for influence and creativity. And my father's deceased, but again, his love of nature definitely sticks with me. And I think even though I haven't hunted or done anything like that in decades, it still resonates with me.
I still somehow remember you with a flannel shirt on, like a lumberjack.
Right. Well, I think even the picture I sent you is like, I mean, it is amazing. And one more thing about getting older is you do go full circle. It is crazy how you go back to being the very thing you were running from as a child
Yeah.
in some form, some version of that. It's just crazy. It's true.
Yeah. My mom was an artist and my dad was a
Okay.
workaholic. And yeah, that pretty
Oh,
much sums me up.
sums you up, right?
Do you
Sure.
think creativity could be implemented in curing people or at least helping people with mental health struggles like depression, anxiety? Any specific insight?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, what art probably does for all of us who create things, we don't have the vernacular to express something, but we can maybe make it through art or clay or arranging a room or, how we cook or anything like that. So yeah, I think, I have to remind myself that not everybody thinks like me, and that there are people out there who are not creative. They're not unhappy necessarily, but they're just not creative. I have a sort of sympathy for those who can't really express themselves, or at least through my lens. So giving them something creative to help extract an emotion or a recollection or something, I think is really valuable. And I think I can imagine that scenario would be very helpful for people with those types of situations to have an outlet that might surprise them. Because I know I'm surprised by art all the time. I'm always try to leave myself open to new materials or new ways of producing work. And I'm like, oh wow, that did something I had no idea it could do. And so I would think that would be true for others as well.
Yeah, and I've also been aware of, thinking back, I had a really good friend named Teresa who I worked with out here, and she and I worked together as behaviorists, helping neurodivergent students.
Hmm.
And toward the end of her life, she got cancer, and it was very sad, and she couldn't do anything. She had to stay home and she couldn't work for a while, but she had a therapist that found out that she used to do art when she was younger. And so she got
Hmm.
back into the painting. And the painting and the making of art and the creating actually gave her about 3 more years. So
Wow.
I think art can be healing. I also love art from people who, this is going to sound terrible, but people who can't draw are some of my
Hmm.
favorite artists, like my dad, who also has passed away. He was
Uh-huh.
left-handed. He had very bizarre, angular handwriting. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
my siblings are laughing about this. And he
Uh-huh.
could not draw. Like my mom was an astounding artist, but my dad couldn't
Mm.
draw, but he would draw
Yeah.
little things when he would send us letters. And they were so terrible, but so funny. And
Yes.
it's making me think about, like, toward the end of Picasso's life, a lot of his
Hmm.
drawings were childish and
Hmm.
simple. And I felt like that's what my dad did. So I'm also fascinated by people who make art that are not artists.
Right. Art brute or novice or,
Yeah.
naive artist. Yeah, of course. I love that. I love that kind of work.
Yeah, and that goes to say with music too. I love
Hmm.
how I've told my students how, like in the punk scene and the goth scene, a lot of these people just grabbed instruments. They didn't take
Yeah.
any lessons. And you
Yeah.
get bands like Bauhaus and Susie and the Banshees where
Hmm.
they're coming up with a style or Joy
Yeah.
Division that is unlike anything you've ever heard. And there's something beautiful about just grabbing something and
Yeah.
making art and making music. What do you think?
Well, of course. And that's what we talked about, the Rochester music scene. I mean, it was just about being part of the scene and just, so you'd grab an instrument because you could do that and get on stage next week with somebody. And yeah, of course, it is such a pathway to expression and being a part of, society, maybe a small part of society, which is probably what most people want anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Is this podcast in tribute to your friend who passed away?
No, but I think about her often, and I think she's
Hmm.
one of the many things that led to me expressing
Yeah.
work like this because I still work with a neurodivergent population, and
Uh-huh.
they just they're so unabashed and so unaware of what anybody else thinks, and therefore,
Yes.
God, the music and the art they make is just beautiful. It makes me think of like
Yeah.
Basquiat, like a unhinged, I don't
Yeah.
care, I'm letting it out,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Well, let's talk about your art. Now, forgive me if this
Sure.
isn't current, but is your exhibition Heart of
Hmm.
Alaska?
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
that's my current show. It actually technically opens today. So, although it's not indicative of what my current style is, but I use this installation as an opportunity to sort of do other things. So, this wonderful theater here called Cyrano's Theater does great plays and performances and experimental stuff and traditional stuff and all that kind of great work. And then they have this wonderful gallery space which doesn't necessarily fall into the timeline or the schedule of like most galleries in Anchorage. So it's kind of a slightly under experienced location gallery space, but I love it because they give me the freedom to do what I want. So this is a 15-foot by 10-foot piece. It's made up of 75 paintings I did. And I think this is my sixth installation there, and I've been able to do whatever I want, and it's so great. And I think again, that sort of this guerrilla era we're in of art, you sort of have to find spaces that you can show in, and not
Yeah.
wait, to 2 or 3 years. We don't have like the entire population of Alaska. Half of it lives in Anchorage,
Yeah.
and Alaska's an enormous state.
Right.
So we don't have a lot of galleries, but the ones we do, we love and support. But we need more opportunities. And so, like my C3, which is this new group that I've started, which stands for Creatives, Collectors, and Community, is more of an activist-based group where we're going to approach the city itself and ask for things. We're going to ask to sit at the table. We're going to ask to be included on decisions. Because if we don't, they're going to make decisions without us. But so my current show is that large piece. But the work that I'm currently doing is called my Portal series, and it's a primarily black and white series that I've been doing for a couple of years now since I moved to Alaska. And I love it. It's something I'm going to be doing the rest of my life and explore. It's endless possibilities. But I have lots of series, and I work on them, and I treat them as opportunities to grow. It's never about the piece I'm finishing. It's about where that piece leads me to on the next one. And I keep doing that. I keep leapfrogging, to the next one. My work to me is not precious. The experience and where it directs me is the precious element to the art.
I think I'm looking at the correct website right now, the International Gallery of Contemporary Art.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I did see a theme in a lot of these pieces where you have, they're almost like black and white placemats mixed in with 3D objects that are almost floating. What is the theme of the background being black and white? Does that mean anything to you, or is it just arbitrary?
Well, yeah. Thank you for asking that. That's a great question, because yes, it does. So, because I'm not more thoughtful than other artists, but I am a very thoughtful artist. So yes, so when I left, I lived in LA for 25 years, and I had an art style there, and I moved to Alaska, and none of it felt true up here. I mean, it just didn't seem like it didn't fit. So for the last, however many years, 7 years or so, I've been trying to figure out what my art language is up here. And so the black and white is a distilling of the long days, the long nights, the cold weather, the warm weather, the snow, the ground. So all those, harsh conditions in Alaska, I distilled down to these black and white lines, I guess.
That's really cool. So you're almost giving a little perspective as to where you're living right now.
Exactly. And then the elements within the pieces they look like rocks.
Yeah.
But they're actually portraits of individuals, not specific individuals necessarily, but I don't treat them as rocks. I treat them as portraits. So it's non-figurative portraiture. So it's a rock form, or rock-like form, with hopefully characteristics that you can imagine as a person, or it might just be the placement of two objects next to one another and the relationship that they sort of hopefully explain. So it's.
Well, the next logical question is, what medium are you currently creating with? Paint, mixed media? Like, what am I looking at here? Because there's some very deep textures that, although I don't see in 3D, they seem to be jumping off the page.
Yeah, well, I do add some elements to the surface of some of the pieces. So kind of like Schnabel, adding plates to the surface of his paintings in a way. But I use black and white gesso primarily for the background. And there's a lot of color in them, by the way. They look black and white, but if you look more closely, there's every color imaginable in there.
Yeah.
But your brain first registers it as black and white. So that's what that is. And then the rock figures are acrylic and color pencil. And I almost always add an element of graphite in it. So, like, honest to God, all I want to do the rest of my life is somehow figure out how to work gesso, acrylic, color pencil, and graphite. Like, that's all I need. And I can it's endless, the possibilities and combinations of those things.
If you could encapsulate this show, what is the subject matter to you? What is the focus?
So the show that you're looking at on IGCA's website?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that show's come down, but that show was interesting for me because so I am doing the Portal series that I just explained, and I wanted the last show to see how far I could take it. I wanted to just give it more depth, I guess. because my first show with that was very static looking images, which I liked,
Yeah.
but I wanted to add more depth. So all of the works in the show that you're looking at, all are referential of some famous work of art. It's by Klimt, by Chagall,
Yes.
by Van Eyck, by Magritte, there was a Picasso piece, there was a Rothko piece, there was a Modigliani piece. So the impetus was taking a famous work by them and then trying to bend my aesthetic into that frame. And it gave them, more of a conceptual, I guess, feel,
Yeah.
because you know that there's something else happening,
Yeah.
but you may not know what else. And for that show, it's the kind of thing where if I show you the image that it's based on, you can never unsee it. But you may not see it on the front end. You may like look at it and think, oh, that's interesting, but never say, oh, that's like Marc Chagall. And then I show you the image, you're like, oh, I'll never not see the Marc Chagall references in that piece.
How important is it to you how different people interpret your work? And it must be very different for everybody.
Yeah, of course. That's the goal, really, is that a piece of art has a lifespan. If something is an apple and everybody who sees it sees an apple, well, to me, that doesn't have much of a lifespan.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be an apple. If you see something different than I see and you don't know my intention, but you still see something, I mean, a lot of the people bought the works without really knowing what they're about.
Yeah.
That's the goal, really, because, you can't control people's views or opinions of you in any way,
Right.
much less your art. So, yeah, you sort of have to surrender, that and just let it go out in the universe. And since I don't really think they're that precious,
Yeah.
I want them to go out. If I could put them in a river and have them float downstream and let people grab them at the bottom and take them home, I would do that.
It's like a Christo piece or something.
Yeah, well, actually, I was thinking of like tanka, like the haikus. So a tanka is like a longer haiku.
Yeah.
So at the top of the river, you write a haiku and you put it on a branch or whatever, and you let it go downstream, and somebody downstream picks it up, and they add two more 7-syllable lines to it, and that becomes a tanka. So that's what I was thinking of when I said that. But yeah, you have to just surrender and just put them out in the world, and hope that they survive or are enjoyed.
Yeah.
And, or maybe I'll find them in the thrift store in the future.
So what is your current show compared to this?
Well, I'm going to talk about my next show because the show that opened tonight is already, in my mind, done.
Okay.
And my next show in June is one that I'm curating, and it's called Last Tier. And what I'm doing is primarily, like really on the surface, I think what I'm doing is simply, I don't want to do another show where works are flat on the wall and you walk in and you look at them and you leave. So it's not quite an installation. I don't really want it to be an installation at all, but I'm going to have things off the wall, and I'm going to have it. The mythos aspect is I want it to look as if in the 50s, there were an art movement happening in Anchorage that never really happened. And I want you to walk in. I'm going to have works that are older. I'm going to have works that are not going to be labeled. I'm going to have works that I got at a thrift store. I'm going to have works that are brand new by contemporary artists here. And you're just going to feel like you're experiencing a salon or a studio of a past generation group of artists.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want for us. I want it for all art communities, but I definitely want it here. I want there to be more of a sense of community where we talk and we experience each other's work and we challenge each other. And I wish that there were enough spaces here, or even just the mental capacity to to understand this concept of I want somebody to challenge my work. I want somebody to do the show that you were talking about, the Portal series. I want them to flip it on its head and do another version of it, or do the complete opposite, or have a response to me. I want to have a response with other artists. I don't want to do this alone. And whether we fight or we get along, I want a community, and I want to work at it, because we all fantasize about the past, in Paris when all the artists were at the cafes.
Right.
They didn't like each other all the time, and they were yelling and fighting, right? But we all know that scenario. But then in real life, we're so polite with one another, and
Right.
we curtsy when we walk into the gallery, and I hate all that stuff. No, I want to fight with somebody. I want energy. I want verve. It's a hard concept when you only have half a dozen galleries, and you have to wait a couple years to show.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. It's the guerrilla era, and I want to get out there, and I want to have a response to somebody else's stuff.
I read this story once, I'm not sure if it's true, about Salvador Dali and Picasso, that there was so much competition and fighting between them that they would show up to a studio and one would hold up a painting, the other one would get mad and hold up another one of his paintings. So for you talking about fighting, they would have these arguments that were silent but enraged, and just a conversation between art. So that sounds like something that you would love.
I love that. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it needs to be. It's not fair. So I have issues with museums and galleries and artists, all of us, myself included. And yeah, we need to recognize that is how it's done, not the politeness and not the patientness of waiting and getting your turn. No, the work needs to be happening now. It needs to not be so thought through. It needs to be a reaction, a response. And because you know what, you can make more. Like, I think there's some artists who think like this painting they're working on is the best they're ever going to do, and I never feel that way. It's of course it's not the best. The next one is going to be the best, and it's not. And the next one's going to be the best, and it's not. And I'm just not a precious person that way.
Yeah.
You've got to move on. You've got to look. So where I'm at mentally as I approach 60, because I don't know what 60s is going to be like, but I think it's going to involve looking back.
Yeah.
I do not want to look back and wish that I had done something, right?
Right.
So I have an art notebook, and I write down lots of ideas, and I don't want to just write ideas and then turn the page. I try to execute every one of my ideas in my book, to failure or to success. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't want a book full of ideas that I never accomplished. And I'm just, that's who I am, and that's what I'm doing now. And I'll show it anywhere so that I can check it off my list and say, okay, that got shown. I did it. I did this giant 10 by 15 foot piece. It doesn't matter what the piece is. I check it off that I got to do that. And you probably didn't get to do it because you're still working on your, 16 by 20 painting.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit, cruel of me, perhaps. I don't know. But that's where I'm at. I just want to move forward. I want to look back and see that I had a lot of stuff that I did. Yeah. And that's all I can think about, is just getting more stuff out there and figuring it out and growing and,
I have a correlation with this.
Okay.
You'll be excited to know that last January, I took an online course with the one and only Brian Eno. And
oh my gosh, wow.
Unbelievable. So we were all online with him, and it was a songwriting course. And you know his work really well, especially with David Bowie and everybody.
Of course.
His goal was to help us break the barriers of thinking about our music. And what he would do is these crazy exercises where he'd be like, okay, watch this 1 minute film. All right, I want you to write about what you saw in that film, but you can only use 2 chords, C major and G major. And then he would give us like a manual, like a Spanish to English manual. And he said, you have to draw your lyrics from here. And then he would give us ridiculous things like that. And he goes, you have 20 minutes, write and record your song into your voice memo and upload it to me. You have 20 minutes. And he would do stuff like this every class. And for me now, it changed my composition approach so much that what I do is I have this loop machine and I just play keyboards. I play drums. I sing. And I only give myself like half an hour. And there's something about that related to what you're saying about letting go of all the preconceptions. And it takes you into the heart and the stream of consciousness where I think that we should be. And it sounds like that's what you're doing with your art too. We're just letting it go. And if there's a mistake, that's probably the best part of it.
Exactly, 100%. And again, it leads to something else. So even that exercise that he had you do, I mean, you already explained, it led you to do something different in your own practice.
Yeah.
And that's it. We've got to move forward and upwards. And we're not going to do that if we keep doing what we already know. And if we keep succeeding, like the reason I changed my last Portal show and gave myself that brief of making it into the, melding it into the works of other artists, because I didn't want to perfect what I was doing. I don't want to perfect it. I want
No.
it to grow and be broken and failed. And I wanted to somehow get to the other end of my life, I guess, being all tattered and taped together. Because I don't want to just keep working and making it the same thing until it has no beauty or danger to it anymore.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep coming back to David Bowie because you and I love
Mhm.
his work, and
Yeah,
I love how he would break the barriers, and that's why my favorite
yeah.
stuff is the Eno trilogy, the Low, the Lodger, even when he
Hmm.
got to Scary Monsters, because they would do all these exercises like you are not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, or I
Or
remember,
switch instruments or cut
yeah,
up the
yeah,
lyrics.
right,
Yeah,
and like the Talking Heads did that, and I
yeah.
remember there's an album he did in the '90s called Outside, which I think is astounding.
Hmm.
And what they did on one of the songs there is each musician had to put headphones on and play to the song. And
Hmm.
then the next musician would be playing to a different song. And it just took his music somewhere that it never would have gone because everybody was almost blindfolded. And
Yeah.
I heard that often I've met a lot of the sidemen who played with Bowie that they'd often say, okay, here's a track. You're not even allowed to listen to it ahead of time. Play a guitar solo. And there's just
Right.
something beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody loves
Yeah.
Rebel Rebel and Modern Love, but
Mhm.
some of that Bowie stuff, the second
Oh yeah.
sides of the German and French albums,
Yeah.
they're just otherworldly. And to me, no matter who the artist is, whether it's a visual artist like you or sonic artist,
Hmm.
I love people that will push themselves outside of their comfort zone. And I think that's
Hmm.
what I love about what you do. You've always been like
Hmm.
that since I've ever known you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so how do I critique work? So the first thing when I critique artwork is I say, how brave is it? How
Yes.
brave was it for this individual to do this? Bravery is the first thing for me.
Yeah.
The second thing is where is the earnestness in it? Like, where are they being genuine? Whether they're art brute like your dad's drawings or somebody who's very, very skilled, where are they the most genuine? The reason your dad's works are so great is because he's written his son a letter and he's put the squiggle drawing to the side of it. It's totally in earnest.
Yeah.
Um, so it's bravery and then earnestness for me, and then I follow the other sort of aesthetics. But yeah, I mean, so he's doing that. I mean, first of all, by the way, like Lodger is one of my favorite albums.
Yes.
I just love. I just love everything he's done.
Yeah.
But Lodger to me is just so chaotic and crazy
Even the cover of the
and
album is
daring.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean,
Well,
like,
and the
what
reference,
the hell?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you
Well,
take a
then
song like African Night Flights, which I think is
oh my God, I love
astoundingly
it.
beautiful, but part of you is like,
Yeah,
is this a Monty Python skit? What is going
yeah.
on here?
It is so crazy. But then you hear part of that in Scary Monsters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly you can see the progression.
Yeah.
But if he hadn't changed and been daring, with Hunky Dory and stuff, we'd never get to Scary Monsters and beyond, and the Outsider and Alien and all that other stuff. So, yeah, you want to see growth, and a lot of people think growth means just the same thing, repetitive, the same thing again and again. And
Right.
growth for me is when you absolutely end up somewhere you never thought you'd get to, and you look around and nothing's familiar, which is a scary way to live as an artist because you sort of want, so many artists. The one thing I don't do as I get older is I don't hold my work up and say, please like me, look what I can do. My work is not about that. I don't care anymore. I'm invisible. I'm heading to the 60s. I'm invisible.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to be scared because you want to look around
Yes.
and not see anybody doing what you're doing and not have any frame of reference and not have any guards, like railings, like to protect you. You want to be out there and be like, oh, this is gonna flop. But we should have the opportunity to flop in public. And that's why I think we need more spaces. Every city needs more spaces or more outlets to do the work, to show it, and then throw it away, burn it, sell it, hide it, whatever. But for us to have those experiences, we need the spaces, we need the cities to help us, not just give us murals.
Yeah.
That's, they need us. They need murals, right? They need us for those things.
Right.
They need to give us more than murals. They need to really, I'm talking about Anchorage at the moment, but, we survive on tourism, and I want to see like an art Basel here in Anchorage. I wanted there to be this, the subarctic. I want this to be the location for the subarctic, art fair.
Yeah.
I want us to really have the city take us seriously and have art as one of the tourist attractions.
Absolutely.
What that looks like, I don't know, but I'll think of it and I'll come back to you with an answer of what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And that's where artists need to recognize their value and their power, and just not be grateful that, that they put out an open call for submissions for one opportunity. 100 people submit and one person wins. That's not good odds for people.
Yeah.
I don't want to be 99. So you failed 99 people. One person succeeded and won, and 99 failed. That's not the way it has. No, it's got to change. And I hate the government the way it is currently.
Yeah.
But institutions have fallen, and we don't need to keep operating as if institutions are still what they were before. We can make our own institutions. We can do it ourselves. Nobody's coming to save us. But we got to stop being grateful for what little we're given by cities. And you've seen elsewhere in the world where some countries are now paying artists a minimum wage, and they get benefits and health insurance. And we need to recognize the arts and the artists as a really valuable component to city planning, not murals, but more than murals. And that's I want to think about my city, Anchorage, in terms of 2030, 2040, 2050. And I don't want it to be the same as it is this year. We need to grow, but that's very scary for a lot of people. People want things to be consistent and the same, and I don't. I want 2050 in Anchorage to look very different than it does today.
One of my favorite artists, and I'm sure yours, is Gustav Klimt, and I got to go to the immersive exhibit here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. To walk inside his art. I only bring that up because it sounds like you want to make Anchorage an immersive city.
Yeah, of course. And I want to keep what we already have here. And I love native work, and there's room for all of us. And absolutely, we are a cultural location. It's, when I first moved to Anchorage, I was so excited because the idea of living in a place where European art wasn't the basis.
Yes.
European, drapery of fabrics and, the carvings, sculptural carvings, that's not the basis here. We're talking, native works is all that they've known,
Right.
And it's very exciting. That's why I had to change my artwork, because the stuff I was doing was too European based.
Yeah.
And it didn't ring true here. And there's so much here to work with, and people need to come and collect the work here. I will often on like Instagram just write to collectors and stuff and just say, please just consider Alaskan artists, because nobody even thinks of us. We're not on the map at all.
Yeah.
Just like we're literally not on a lot of maps, like, Alaska and Hawaii sometimes are just not included in the US, by the way, but we're not even thought of. Yeah. And I want that to change too. I want that to be something that's different. I want people to collect Alaskan art, not just tribal stuff, of course that, but not just that. We are a contemporary group of people. Just like you don't expect all Egyptian art to have pyramids in it, right?
Right.
I mean, you don't have to have Alaskan art have moose and ravens in it. It doesn't have to have that.
Yeah.
You can have it be about nothing that you think Alaska's about and still be Alaskan art. And Yeah, again, that's what I want. I want us to think differently. If you want things to be different, you have to think and act differently. And I'm started to call myself a disruptor, which is not who I am. Uh, but I recognize that you have to start disrupting things because otherwise people just think it's the only path forward is what they've known their whole lives, and it's not. There's a new world approaching, and we get to design it, but we have to be brave enough. Okay, like my art aesthetic, you have to be brave enough and earnest enough to make it happen.
I was going online and looking at some of your pieces. Tell me about
Mhm.
Horsehead. That's maybe my
Oh my
favorite right
gosh.
now.
Oh, wait. So it's a sculpture, right?
Yes, yeah, 3D sculpture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great piece. I saw that that was up for auction somewhere recently. Yeah, that was a sort of an art brut attempt. I think it was a guitar head that I found, and it just reminded me of a horse's head and its nose. And that was the beginning of sort of just putting the materials together, not pre-planned. I didn't seek out elements. I have a box of materials and I just would, construct them in a way that it started to look like a horse's head, and then I sort of put it on I think a box and some Asian fruit box
Yeah,
post or not post, but a podium or what do you call that? Like a base.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun piece. I remember that piece. I sold it a long time ago, and now I see it's on auction. So.
I love it, and I don't know why, but it makes me think of H.R. Giger, one of my favorite artists of all
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. I had that for sure because if you look at it, so I know what it is, right? I know it's a horse's head,
Yeah.
and I view it from left to right. But if you look at it from right to left, people absolutely think it's like alien. It's right. If you're looking at it currently, if you look at it from right to left, it looks like the alien head. But yeah, it's not.
I would
Not
wear
for
it on a
me.
t-shirt. I love it.
Uh-huh. Oh, great.
What's your perception regarding the difference between sharing your artwork in Rochester, New York, Los Angeles,
Hmm.
California, and Anchorage, Alaska? Can you differentiate between those three
Yeah.
locations?
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind, and it's sort of in my mind, the front of my mind, because it's an important part of what I'm trying to do, which is collectors. The difference there is collectors.
Yeah.
So my thing that I say now all the time is that collectors are the archivists of an arts community. We as artists have got to recognize them. We've got to treat them not because they're opening their wallets to us, not that at all,
Yeah.
but if they collect something that they can afford once every year, in 15 years, they have a snapshot of what the scene looked like, just like your audio cassettes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a snapshot. And that's really, really valuable because, artists will come and go, especially up in Alaska, they move away, et cetera. And they're really valuable in that way. And they have to be included when we get together as artists, like they need to be included. So what I see, so I happen to had, in 2010, I had the great fortune of selling two of my paintings to the Getty family.
Wow.
Mark Getty, who owns Getty, Getty Images, and
Incredible.
his sister Eileen came into a gallery. It's actually a really long, funny story, and they bought two of my pieces, and he gave one to his sister. So I'm technically in two private Getty art collections, just by chance.
Wow.
And the difference is that LA has money.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
people come in who can literally walk down your driveway into a gallery, a small gallery, and hand you a black credit card that you've never seen before in your life
Yeah.
that doesn't feel like it feels like it's made out of alien material. And I mean, literally, Mark bought two of my pieces. I think they were $600 each. And Eileen Getty was there, and she turns around and she, I want that piece, and she pointed to it, and I said it's $18,000, and she was like, okay, like it never didn't flinch.
Jeez.
Um, so of course, back in Rochester, a whole different era, of course, but it's about collectors. And actually, Rochester did have some collectors. Rome Sully, who I've already mentioned,
Yeah.
is a great art collector, and he actually runs this wonderful Rochester collective of collectors, and he does great things. So that's there. But here in Anchorage, we don't really have collectors. There's certainly money up here,
Yeah.
but not like you have in LA. Like LA,
Right.
literally, I remember. So I ran an art gallery in LA for several years, called Couturier Gallery. I was the manager of it. It was owned by Daryl Couturier, and I ran it. And you'd have people, getting off a plane and have their limo drive up to the gallery and come in and shop and leave, and buy stuff.
It's
And
like a drive-through.
kind of like a drive-through, yeah. And you don't have that here.
Yeah.
So I have a challenge in terms of like sort of educating people on what it can look like.
Yeah.
Again, so I want collectors to come here and browse and peruse and take interest in our artists, because you're never really selling a painting, you're selling the artist. And you'd say this is an artist who is committed to what they're doing, and they have a plan, and they're moving forward. And that's why you buy a piece. You can buy a piece because it matches the couch.
Yeah.
But when I sell art, I sell it because of what the person's doing, not what they've painted.
I see that you mentioned the term neo-art. I would like to know, what does that mean to you? Because I think that means a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah, it does. I mean, part of the problem with art is it's a small word, but it's a huge canopy, right? So you and I can be talking about art.
Yeah.
And my version of art is totally different than your version of art. You're thinking about music. I'm thinking about, paintings.
Yep.
And so we're never really having the same conversation. And so that's a problem. And so I did, so the neo art markets, plural, because really we don't really know what the future is going to look like. It's changing all the time.
Yes.
You're going to have computers, we already have computers making art, and you're going to blah, blah, blah. So what I mean by that is I'm open to things being different than what I've known before.
Right.
It's kind of that simple of a statement. And I'm recognizing that, again, we're in a guerrilla era where you're going to make art your own way and show it your own way and sell it your own way. And Venmo is going to be the new Sotheby's. And so I'm just open to the possibility of things being different, and hopefully recognizing it and not shutting down from it or ignoring it. But
David Bowie once said, "It's almost a social grace to get into the art world, and I'm very wary of it. Art was good in Berlin in the late 70s. There was a lot more guts to art when the neo-expressionists were starting up. It was real slapdash. It had a real heart to it. But it seems so cold and heartless in America. It's a buyer's market." What's your reaction to that?
Well, he's 100% right. I mean, that is the curse, right? I mean, that's what a lot of artists are still pursuing. So here's another issue I have, and I'm going to make this full circle, I think, to your quote there. But I sell my work for very, very cheap for a couple of reasons. One is I want first-time collectors to buy my work. I want to be the person that they remember, when I first had, a little bit of money, I bought this by him. And now I buy other works and I spend more money. But you have artists who price their work in this ridiculous fashion because they only know the American markets where they see something go for, let's just say $1 million, just for the sake of a number.
Yeah.
And the mathematics are wacky. That piece is not worth that money. First of all, the person whose piece sold for $1 million is dead. The reason it has an extra zero is because they're dead. And you can't think that your work, because you think it looks like that, is of value. Or they'll go to a retrospective, and within the scope of somebody's 60-year career, they're like, I can do that. And they go home and they do that.
Yeah.
And they think it's valuable because they're comparing it to this person who had a 60-year plus career.
Yeah.
They're missing the point. And so in general, the American markets, and probably markets all over the world, are really confusing for artists. And so it becomes like everything in America, how much can I get out of somebody and how can I trick them, et cetera. And so, there is no slapdash to it. If there is, it's being marketed as if it's got to cost this much, and now you need to do another one just like it because we can get that same money for it, and actually do 10 of them just like it, but in different colors, so we can really corner the market on it. And it's not healthy. It's not good. It's not what art's really about.
Yeah.
It's it's commercialism for sure, but it's not art. And so, yeah, he's 100% right. I dare you to give me a Bowie quote that I don't agree with.
Speaking of art, he once said somebody asked him what the lyrics were about, and he goes, "I'd rather not tell you. I'm more interested in what you think."
100%. Yeah, he's the best.
You reminded me also of my friend Mark Kostabi, who I met
Uh-huh.
through another friend, Jerry Murata, and Mark's on the other side of it. He's all about,
Wait, the artist,
yes, like
Kasabi?
he's
Oh,
all
yeah, yeah.
about like how much can he make on it, and I think
Yeah.
because he grew up with Warhol and Basquiat and Keith
Hmm.
Haring, he really learned that
Right.
whole Warhol approach where Mark doesn't even need to really make the painting. He has other people do it for him.
Of
So I
course.
think there's
Right.
just so many approaches, and I love that I could see you and him having a great argument and fight, and I would love hearing both sides of it because nobody's right, nobody's wrong.
Well, but the thing is, so Mark's work is there's all ways of approaching work, right? It can be about the Favis were about color and the process and the area, the regional aspect of your work and stuff like that. So he picked up on, yes, let's say the Warhol aspect
Yeah.
of sort of mass producing, which is as old as Rembrandt's
Yeah.
studio as well.
Good point. Good point.
And that's what he does. So that's what he's latched onto is the studio aspect of art.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the work is. And I like his work. I his
Oh,
witches hats
me
and
too.
all that stuff. Yeah, I love his work. But that's what he does. Just like Jeff Koons does his own thing, and Damien Hirst. I mean, they're not. It's not about the work. It's it's about other things.
Yeah.
And so where you approach it. So with Hearst's the shark in a cut up shark, and
Yes.
it's about where you are stepping. To use the river analogy again, you put your toe in the river. It's never the same river every time. So you're entering art at a different location. The Warhol aspect of studio, Hearst's, I don't know how what do you say about his work, but just sort of the absurdity of corporation
Yeah.
art,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Having a dead skull and flies on it or butterfly wing. Like it's just he just stepped into it with the grossness of commercial aspect and wealth. And so yeah, that's a part of it. It's how you approach a piece. Again, it's not about the piece, it's about it's about so many other things, so many
Yeah.
other facets.
One more quote for you by
So,
someone
okay.
I'm sure you love, one of my favorite artists, Francis Bacon.
Yeah. Well, yes. Actually, I'm not the fan you might think I am. Uh, but go ahead, give me the quote.
I love this. I love a good argument. He once said, "All painting is an accident, but it's also not an accident because one must select what part of the accident one chooses to preserve." That
Yeah.
seems to
Well,
align with a few things that you've said tonight.
yeah, well, it definitely aligns with the last thing I said. So you sort of are choosing as an artist where you want to put your handprint. And what process of it? Is it the surface? Is it the thickness of the canvas, the surface of the canvas? Is it the size? Sometimes it's just about the size of the piece. Is it about the materials? All these things. And yes, so I do think he's I was going to say a genius. I'm not sure if I think he's a genius or not, but I do like that he's taken a sliver of art that really isn't explored, which is really truly just sort of the wrong turn, and he's really elevated that sort of wrong turn aspect and made it his own for sure. I mean, his paintings I can absolutely stare at. There's a subtlety to them. It's not the grotesqueness that
Right.
interests me. It's the subtlety of the line of the background, like the thin line, and how the color on one side of the line is almost exactly the color on the other side, but not quite. Like that kind of stuff really gets me going. The swirliness is great, but it's sort of once you've seen it, then you've seen it. And I dislike very much how messy he is. I'm a very
Oh,
neat and
do you mean
organized
his?
artist.
I've seen the photos of his studio. It's absolutely
Yeah,
crazy. I
it's
think he's
crazy. I don't like that.
I run into this a lot. I think he's a fascinating
But
person too. And some
yeah,
days I just love to hear him recordings of him having a discussion. And then furthermore, there's a lot of artists that I was into when we were both in Rochester, like
uh-huh.
Francis Bacon and also a photographer I love named Joel Peter Whitkin. And
Sure, yeah, yeah.
there's something about it's alluring, but also horrifying. And I can't take
Right.
my eyes away from it. But they're also taking us somewhere that no one's ever been, which again comes back to your bravery.
Yes, correct. Right. To have an amputee or an obese individual like Whitkin's work, in your piece, and then he would put like wet paper towels over the paper when he printed them, and it's sort of a real beauty. So the elements are grotesque, let's say, to generalize them,
Yeah.
but then there's like a real beauty and loveliness to the surface and the tonal qualities of them. And he would hand paint some of them with, pinks and purples and gold. So it's a give and take, right? And same thing with Bacon. They were ugly, they were grotesque, and yet you'd be really precious with some of the lines and the concentration of elements and diptychs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So everything's a push and pull. Everything's a push and pull.
Yeah, another fascinating thing about those two artists is I think they've subliminally influenced films because there are two films I'm
Hmm.
thinking of. My wife and I have this obsession with exorcism movies.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And one of our favorite ones is called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And I'm watching this
Uh-huh.
movie and I'm like, oh my God, the cinematographer has to be aware of Francis Bacon because they're all the same tones. And I looked it up.
Yeah.
Turns out, same thing. Another great movie that I love is called Jacob's Ladder. And
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, I love that.
oh my gosh, there are
Yeah.
scenes in there that are totally highly
Bacon.
influenced by Joel Peter Witkin,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on? Do you ever find yourself watching a film and recognize the influence of artists that you've been inspired by?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, now I'm probably gonna fail at remembering this because I'm terrible with names, but Munch is a favorite artist of mine, and there have definitely been films that have
Yeah.
done, his aesthetic, with like red carpeting.
Yep.
I know there's a super famous one. I just can't think of what
Home
it is.
Alone. Come on. The
Oh, well,
poster,
oh,
obviously.
oh, maybe. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. But no, there's definitely a film by a very famous filmmaker, and I can't think of who it is. But yeah, so no, I love that. I think I'm going to be honest with you. I think that had an era, and I think continue to do it is a little bit passé.
Yeah.
But I understand it. I mean, at least art is considered. But then you have to look back and you have to be appreciative, and you have to give. That's why you need to give artists, health insurance and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because what I think about more than what you've said is how many filters in like Photoshop and online are based off of famous works of art, like pixelism, pointillism,
Yes.
and various things like that nature. And I think, well, if it weren't for the bravery of artists who did these things at a time when it didn't make any sense to do them, you wouldn't have these filters that you just casually apply and don't even think about. But somebody was brave enough to put I don't know, an outline on a thick black outline on something, or the pointillism, or I can't think of other examples at the moment. But
Well, let's listen.
we
Let's
really
go
need
back in
art.
time. How about someone like
Okay,
Mondrian? He influenced the way people decorated their kitchens. It's not always.
that's true.
I know
Yeah,
there's. If you go back to like the 50s and 60s, you can clearly see
yeah,
his influence. So it's not only films; it's everything. And it sounds
yes.
more to me like what you're doing is you're. I love that you say you're becoming invisible because you
Mhm.
may be influenced by something. You may influence someone else, but it all becomes part of the same collective.
Exactly. That's exactly right. You just have to give. You really have to give. It really is about, we live in a world where receiving is sometimes more considered more important. And of course, everything should have a push pull. But I'm at a stage where I'm all about, just giving it over. And,
Yeah.
and I either get something back later or I don't. But I'd rather be in that pool of art or information or aesthetics than to be absent from it because I was waiting to get my, what I thought I deserved, or, you know, doing my quote unquote best. Like I just want to be in the mix. And with that, comes, a sacrifice. I might fail. I might never be known for anything, or, again, I might find my work in a thrift store. No, better
Yeah.
yet, somebody in the future finds my work in a thrift store and, takes it home and paints over it even.
Yeah.
But I'm still in the mix.
Yeah. I think that when you're giving and when you're letting go, in some ways you immediately receive anyway.
Yes. I agree 100% with that.
Before we go, I'd like to help people check out your art. Is there a specific website? And as far as I know, you're on Instagram. Are you on anything else?
I'm not on anything else. I think my name is on Facebook, but I've literally never been on Facebook. I think it's come up like I've had to click a button that said, "Do you want a Facebook account?" But I'm literally not on. I'm only on Instagram.
Okay, so what is your Instagram URL?
It's Reto, j.Reto. So RETO, JRETO.
Okay. And do you have a website or do they?
Nope.
Is there a gallery? I see that igcaalaska.org has a lot of your work.
Yeah, I show there a fair amount. So I would say between Instagram and IGCA, those are your two best chances to see my work. Yeah, I hope people check it out. But more importantly, I hope people go home and do their own thing and just know that I'm out there. Because I think about artists all the time when I'm producing my work. I literally think about them all the time. And I think, somebody else is out there doing this, or somebody that I know locally. Oh, this is the way they would, the mark they would make, or this is how they would do it, and I'm going to do the opposite. And we are a community, and whether you know me or don't know me, I'm thinking about you, and I hope that you are somewhere in the universe thinking about the possibility, does somebody ever do this? Does somebody, paint in black and white stripes, etc.? Just be free and be brave and earnest and do the work. And we're all going to be in the same pool together. I hate how I'm trying to wrap this up.
One silly question for you. I've got to know because I've never been to Alaska. Which location gets colder, Alaska or Rochester, New York?
Ooh, that's kind of a good question. That's so interesting.
Do you guys have all 4 seasons there?
Not in equal parts, no. We have snow all over the place, and it's spring.
Yeah.
So I was younger and poorer in Rochester, so it felt colder than me. But here, we're kind of close to the water, and actually, Anchorage is, so it gets like negative 17 degrees. Listen, the school that my son goes to, the kids go outside for recess up until it's negative 10 degrees. That's the cutoff. After negative 10, they got to go play inside.
Good God.
So, yeah, my son swims in glacier water. So, it's kind of a hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
How warm does it get?
We might have a couple days that are 80.
It's not bad.
Because the climate is changing for sure.
Of course.
But now Fairbanks, Alaska is unique in that it gets like negative 40 degrees and it gets really hot in the summer. It has it's one of those spots that gets extremes. But Anchorage is, I don't know, I love it here, and I don't think about it too much, to be honest with you. It's just, it feels mild. You go to the airport and you see people picking up their families and they're in Bermuda shorts, and it's, negative 10. And
wow.
I don't know. It's it's an interesting place for sure. I'm so happy to live here.
This sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, I'm so glad that we got together and had this discussion, and let's make sure we don't wait 30 years again.
That sounds great. I love it.
Would you agree to do this again in the near future?
Yeah, I would love it. Actually, maybe when my last tier show is up, or I have a show at the end of the year in October, which is going to be made out of, I'm painting everything out using ice scrapers.
Ooh.
Because it's so apropos here. Because everybody has ice scrapers. So, so one of those two things. Yeah, let's do it again.
Let's definitely do it. All right. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, take care.
Hello, My name is Jefferson De Leon, and I am a scientist in the biotech sector and a comedy musician, and I am a proud sponsor of the Creativity is the Cure podcast, because creativity is central to who I am and what I do. Check out my creations on my website, jeffersondeleone.com. That is JEFFERSONDELEONE.com.